Okay. I call
Look,
to order
buddy,
the meeting of the Brattleboro Housing Partnerships on Monday, January 23rd at 7 PM in the community room of the Samuel Elliott Apartments. First order of business is to review and approve the minutes from the regular meeting of December 12th, 2016. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Yeah.
A second from Tom. Any comments on the minutes? Corrections? Additions? Hearing none.
Chris?
You ready to vote?
No, I need to go.
Richard, do you have any
Yes.
comments on the minutes?
Just be-
No.
Just pass it
Okay.
down. I don't think we take
Sorry.
it this
Goes to you.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes as circulated, please say aye.
fast. Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Second order of business. Resident and citizen participation. Got here just in time. Anything you want to
Not really.
say? Okay. And since Gary is the only non-board member, well, now Richard and Chris are staff anyway, non-board member, and Mary as our videographer, I'm very grateful for having both of you here. We'll move on to business of resident interest. And the staff reports review property managers. These most beautiful purple blue. I think somebody had fun buying colored paper.
Yeah, they had fun with the paper this month. We have a temp in the office and she's doing a great job.
That's wonderful. Okay. General update, we have just a few units left to be filled in public housing to achieve full occupancy. Wonderful. What does that mean for wait list for public housing?
It means that the waiting on the wait list will be longer.
But where people are on the wait list?
Well, it'll shift somewhat as we fill vacancies, so people will obviously move up the
Yep.
list. But then after that, it'll sort of
Will level up?
level
Yeah.
off for a little bit until it, probably through the winter. People don't tend to move in the winter.
Okay. Any comments on the property managers' reports?
Just a comment on the paper.
Well,
This is nice paper too. Yeah.
I was looking particularly at the December rent collection performance.
What happened?
What?
Is that because of the move?
Oh, the moves. Oh, well, Melrose would be the moves. Yeah. Yeah. And Richard's still sorting that out.
Christmas at Moore Court?
Yeah, you got that one. Richard's, I would have to look into why that is where it is. It should not be that low. And Red Clover was just there was a lot of changes in who left, what, and who came, and many, many changes we had to make in all of that. So Red Clover and Melrose really were very unsettled until the end of the.
Did we get that situation resolved where someone was eligible to live in Melrose and not eligible to live in Midtown?
Yep.
Good.
We did get it resolved.
And you also reminded me that it was hard for people sometimes in December to allocate money where they needed to go for rent payment. And the two property managers who were so busy moving people to Red Clover Common didn't have time to work with that.
They didn't, right.
It's a pretty big outstanding final number.
Yes.
Well, I think that number is we've been able to clean that up a lot. I'll have to find out, I'll have to ask about AWR. I have a feeling there's something behind that.
AWR being
The
N.W.
Richards
Richards
building.
building.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But as for Red Clover and Melrose, that's just all the adjustments we were making, and where we asked people to pay in one place and then they got moved at different dates, and so it was quite a series of events.
Then again, I do have to congratulate Hayes Court with a 98%, or not, excuse me, 94.8%.
Yeah,
Rent payments. So
great.
it is not completely.
No, not all Christmas doom and gloom.
Well,
If they hit
Yes.
100%, they get a free month's rent, right?
No, don't say that, Tom.
Don't broadcast it.
Don't believe it.
I think you're missing one.
Yeah, isn't Samuel Elliott missing?
Yes, we are. Yeah, we're missing.
We're missing Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
On the bottom.
No,
No,
I
that's
thought it
something
was,
else.
no, it didn't get in. I will.
That means we don't pay no rent?
Nope.
No, 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 no.
It means that next time I see that, I'm hoping that it says 100% rent collected. It'll make a difference.
All right, I will get the SCA and totals page.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to family self-sufficiency. Actually, yes.
Yep.
Housing choice vouchers. So,
That's the light
section,
blue.
right? So, section 8. Costs above the current budgeted
Mhm.
amount, are they coming down?
Well, it will, we think it will course correct itself, and HUD wants us to be in a position where we have very little in HUD-held Section 8 reserves. So they want to see us spending our reserves. And the problem is that because running Section 8 is like driving the Titanic, it takes really a long time to make a slight change. So what happens is by the time we stop issuing vouchers, or this month our voucher limits all went up, by the time that catches up with us, it'll probably be this summer. And we have no idea what our cap amount will be from HUD. We don't know if our money will be frozen. We have no idea. So we'll have to just keep going. We will not put new vouchers out. Vouchers will increase as they renew, on their annual renew. And then, once we've spent through all our reserves, then we go into this very complicated, convoluted program that HUD has for when you've spent your reserves. So that they can look like the heroes and make sure that nobody has to lose their voucher, which is good. But they sort of put you in a position where you have to spend all your money. They make us spend all our money, and then we go into this this group that they, hand out little crumbs to make sure that we don't take vouchers back.
That sounds a little bit backwards to me.
It's really tough. It's not a good system at all.
The
We're
other
still doing
comment?
pretty well with reserves.
Yeah,
We're not tapping them down really quickly. It's incremental.
right, yeah. But we'll see what happens now that we've gone into the new year with our adjusted fair
Fair
market
market
rents,
rents.
which were adjusted up quite a bit, so.
Okay, Shelter Plus Care, serving a total of 30 participants. 6 are families and the remaining 24 are single individuals. Continue to be near our budget limit in the program with 1 currently searching. Comments, questions? And transitions to housing with 9 families active in the program with 1 additional family searching and another to meet with me this week, according to David, to issue a subsidy, begin their search. 3 participants exited, 1 moved to public housing, 1 was given a VS Vermont State Housing Authority Section 8 voucher. The other graduated from the program after 24 months, which is really exciting to read.
Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah.
And then there's the quarterly report, again, on this beautiful new paper. So it really gives you a sense of the transitions to housing. Any questions about these? Housing choice action plans. The asset manager. This is the yellow report from
Right.
Jack Mahoney. Questions about the Sam Elliott Apartments, sprinkler system, Red Clover comments, maintenance staff, and energy. The Vermont Fire Marshal design approval, has that come through?
This is a state guy. Yeah. Could take a while.
On the energy, Tom, you were talking about the solar field at the landfill.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot is happening in the alternative energy, renewable energy field. And every time you turn around, wind and solar are getting cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And more banks and more financial institutions are getting involved in providing assistance or, interesting ways of financing these things. So we should really be scrutinizing these things, because when I sign checks, I notice that
Oh,
Green
yeah.
Mountain Power
Yes.
is weekly,
doing well.
the biggest check we've signed.
Oh, yeah. So you may have seen in the paper that the solar array at the landfill was going to the schools and the town, public entities. So Jack called them and said, hello, here we
Yeah.
are. We haven't been able to get the whole of the story, but they said they did work with the Barry Housing Authority, ran into some troubles,
Huh.
some issues, and they were not interested in pursuing a contract with us. So I need
That's
to,
interesting.
yeah, I need to find out more, but they said something happened and they just got leery of working with the housing authority.
Because technically, I certainly think we're
Oh,
qualified.
we absolutely
Yeah.
qualify, yeah. So I just wanted to let you know
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we saw it, we made the call, Jack's had lengthy conversations with them, and they
That's
said,
discouraging.
yeah, they said, something happened over in Barry, we're not too
But we're
keen
not
on."
married.
Well, I want to find out what happened, that's put them off of housing authorities.
Yeah, keep you posted on
I
that.
will,
Yeah.
I'll let you all know, but we did pursue it.
Thank you. And the reorganization of the maintenance staff, in
Mhm.
order to just look at that.
We have Jack and I are talking over a really excellent sort of position paper that he wrote, just put his thoughts down about going forward with maintenance and property management, in terms of really aligning the two together and getting them to work really well together. So that is in process. One of the things that we will be working on as we get the property management group set is the work order system. We really need to get that very, very functional in order to be able to track maintenance and the materials and supplies that we are expending. And that's one of our biggest, that and energy are the materials and supplies, and then they're like, yeah, so,
Okay,
yeah.
we will,
it's
we
good.
are interested.
Yeah, good, I know. You read these reports?
Yes,
Good.
indeed. And SASH. This wonderful, January this year,
Yeah.
SASH flash.
A lot of good winter tips. I think
Yes.
we'll send it to Chris Conley for some reason, did not get her packet, so we'll get the SASH flash to her.
Well, winter safety tips for older adults worked beautifully for our,
For everyone.
for Chris Connolly, who's not at this meeting because she was afraid of falling.
Yeah.
So, very helpful.
And SASH is started up at Red Clover. We have renamed the Melrose panel, is now the Red Clover Commons panel.
Okay.
It is housed there. That will be its site. And they already had one coffee meet and greet, and they've got a lot of activities scheduled for RCC. So, yeah. It's sort of funny, these folks all live together at Melrose, but they didn't even know each other, some of them.
That's right.
They're like, I didn't know that this person, do you know this person is my neighbor now? I'm like, well, yeah, they lived at Mount, you know.
It is a different
But they were-
experience living in an apartment.
Yeah, they were, you know,
To
8
see each
acres
other in
below
the
each other.
elevator, you know,
Yeah.
you never saw it before.
That's right, that's right. Okay, so that's going well.
That's excellent. And general update on Red Clover Commons.
Going pretty well. We've still got some heating issues and fan coils and, you know, the usual startup things. I am eternally grateful for our very patient residents and families. But it's coming along. And I think people have been just great about being in a building that's just sort of getting the kinks out of it.
Great.
Washing machines all in now.
They are, Jack was leaving at about 1 o'clock because the washing machines weren't working somewhere and something else was, and, you know, they just think of him as the Red Clover maintenance guru, so off he was
To
going.
get them out.
I'm somewhat out of order, but this,
Oh, yeah.
the family self-sufficiency report
That was out of order.
was important to talk about and look at. As they said, going into the new year, our top priority is recruitment, as our numbers are down. I believe we're at 50 participants and they need 75?
76.
76. We did have one participant finish their contract and graduate, which is very exciting, with over $10,000 in their escrow. And that is a real achievement. Comments, questions?
Well, just to put that in perspective, I saw something just very recently, that the average American has no more than $500 in the bank. That's nationwide.
Wow.
That people would have a hard time meeting an unexpected $400 bill.
For sure.
Without borrowing or selling something. The other thing that I just noticed, and Lucy's words were yike. We had their PCC meeting last month, Updates from other agencies included Wyndham Child Care that said there were basically no openings for child care. So, difficult.
Mhm.
We are at the financial review, monthly check listing. Agreed. Tom, you've been the check signer, I will be next month,
Mm-hmm.
so,
I'll ask Richard to save a few for you.
good.
What was that?
I said I'd ask you to save a few checks for her.
So I have a few checks to countersign as board member.
She's doing the February thing.
He's pulling your leg.
Okay. Not that swift.
Review of the 2016 audit and management letter.
Oh, do we have a check signer for March?
Yes, oh, no, we don't.
So
We
who's
need
doing?
checks. I'm doing February.
You're doing February, okay.
So,
Do we have
March,
a
April, and May.
March, April, May?
I just don't know yet.
Okay, okay,
I'll do March.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
thank you.
Stop with me.
I'll bring them to you, Lord.
All right, and we'll leave April and May, we can do that.
We've got enough time to figure it out.
Yeah, we can do that.
I can either do April or May.
I can probably do it, I just don't know.
Do,
I probably can, I just won't
Can
know till
May
after
or-
tomorrow.
well,
Oh,
well, why don't we make it that I will do April, and May will be further enough along so that
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right.
Okay?
I'll put you first in line.
Mhm.
All right, that's great, thank you.
And the letter which you have on the top here,
That's it, this one.
yes, in
So,
response to the financial, the letter which I got at home,
yes,
Yeah.
and hastily called Chris and said, what is this? And it was helpful to be reminded that we had talked about all of this last December? September.
yep,
But that the HUD did not get around to sending the letter saying, we're concerned about it, until the 9th of January,
Yeah, that's about
which
right.
was part of the difficulty.
right.
So thanks to Chris to rehash your responses, and then we have the extensive letter to Marilyn Sullivan, Director of Office of Public Housing at HUD in Boston.
And this, what I did was I took their, this is my response
Mhm.
To this.
to that. And what I did was, I took their letter and responded to each of their points with pretty much some of the same, but an update of the materials that we had sent you in September. Sort of where are we at? And followed through on, all of the things that they recommended. So I put our actions under their suggestions, that's the way to put it.
Yes.
And by and large, we have done a lot of the things, we've done all of the action items that we could do quickly
Mhm.
and that we could implement, I won't say painlessly because they're not. I mean, we lowered our retirement contribution, we lowered the employees' retirement contribution. The employees are picking up more of the health insurance. We have, I think I have it in here, when I did the employment census in January of 2016 and did it again this January, we are down 6 employees from where we were this time last year. Now, we'll be hiring some additional ones, but we won't be back at 6. We'll, at the most, we'll be at 3. So, and then there are other things in here which are much longer term, like energy. And certainly the selling unencumbered property and going to RAD and all of that, that's, you know, yes, we want to be on it.
Well, as I read Sullivan's letter, I kept thinking, we've done all this already.
Right.
Or at
We've
least
done a
we
lot.
certainly did a lot of it.
Yes.
We've done a lot of it, and what we haven't done, we certainly have, between Richard and myself and Jack, it's on the radar. I mean, we know where we want to go with these.
To the pike.
Yeah, yeah.
And to be reminded that the 3 months of the last quarter of our fiscal year, when we had the extreme cold and snow, when they say, please use all of your reserves, that's so difficult.
Well, I don't know that I have it in here, but
That's in the first
is
paragraph.
that, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. I also noted that we had very, very high legal expenses and very high turnover length of time. And the longer the turnover is, it hurts us in a lot of ways. We don't get that rent.
Right.
It hurts our HUD numbers when they pull our numbers. And it's just not a good situation. But we had a lot of residents that we had to work with. And our property managers were really busy with, you know, a handful or more at many places. And when they're doing that, then they're not getting in place systems for systematically going to people about rent collection or lease violations in a less than sort of black hat way. You know, they can't really develop the kinds of relationships that then you can count on when you miss a rent payment because your tire blew. You know, there's just not, that relationship isn't there. So I think now that we've got Red Clover, you know, except for Jack and Courtney and Christine, who probably will live there for the next 3 months, by and large, that's moving along, and we can now start to work on getting the property managers and the property management lined up, and maintenance lined up, and really, what I said to the staff was that this year, it's just back to basics. It's really back to basics. It's back to rent collection, turnover, you know, the very basics of running the housing authority. So they know that's where we're going this year, and it's not too exciting, but we very much want to get back our high performer standing because they now have released the notice for the expansion, the invitation for housing authorities to expand to moving to work agencies. I really want us to be a moving to work agency, and the first thing you have to be is a high performer.
What does that actually mean?
You cannot apply unless you have a high performer status.
What does the work agency actually mean?
Moving to work is a demonstration program that HUD started,
Okay.
I'm gonna say about 15 years ago, maybe longer. And what it does is if you get designated, and there are about 40 in the country now, but if you get designated a moving to work agency, you literally get to write your own rules about Section 8, public housing, family self-sufficiency, resident services coordinator, property management, how they're all gonna work together, how you're gonna work to get people to be self-sufficient. You can say you're only gonna be in our housing for 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, unless there's real hardship, you have to leave. So we've got all these things we're gonna do, all these services, and we have them all.
Mm-hmm.
We have all these
No, just
services, the
thinking
whole
this is
basket of
Family
services.
self-sufficiency in,
Here it is, you've got 5 years to take advantage of this, and we're gonna work with you, because in 5 years, you have to leave. You can do that in moving to work. You
Interesting.
can't
Okay.
do that anywhere else. And you take all your money, All your money just gets thrown together. Your capital fund, your Section 8, your public housing is one lump of money. And you get to decide what is the best way to spend your money. It's amazing
Well, it
program.
sounds like it's a lot more work on one hand, but it's a lot
Oh,
more
it's
useful.
so much better.
Yeah.
It's so much better.
One size does not fit all.
That's right. So I think we would be a really great moving to work agency.
Uh-huh.
I think we've got the staff, we've got the culture of working with our residents. We're not a punitive housing authority. We're one that really believes that we can help people on their road to independence, or they can just stay with us and age well here, you know. But we've really got all the pieces. We just need to get that high performer status so we can make the application.
So what are we doing to move toward high performance?
Rent collection, turnover, it's all those basics. We have to get all those numbers back up. We have to get all those in our financial situation. We have to get that completely turned around, which I think Richard will tell you about.
Good.
We're moving in all those directions.
I wanted to ask what screening changes have come in, because as you said, we had a result of less than desirable screening. We had large legal expenses. How has that changed?
I would say that our screening is, they are more, there's more care in screening people. So if somebody doesn't have any landlord references, a housing authority should, in many ways, we should be open to taking that person. But there's a way to go about taking that person that protects the housing authority, and that is you do some more work. You talk to more people. You find out where were they, where have they? Oh, you work groundworks. Oh, great. Who did you work with? You just make more of an effort to find out those things, and then you can screen in that person, and it'll work. But if you don't do that and you just take the person, you don't know.
Google them, see if they've been in any trouble.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Newspaper.
You know?
Or if you automatically screen them out, then you're not helping the community.
Exactly. Then we're not doing what I believe we're supposed to be doing. So what we've done, it's interesting because they are applying not a higher level of screening, but more intentional screening, doing better at getting all the verifications, getting the landlord information, all of that stuff. And I'm a hearing officer, the informal hearing officer for denials. And I have to tell you, my workload has not gone up. Not at all. In fact, it's the same, it's less. And I think that's because the work that's done by the property managers and their team is so thorough now that when they sit down with you, Janet, and they say, here, our rule says if you owe money to a housing authority and you do not have a repayment agreement, we cannot take you. Here's the letter from this housing authority, you owe them $5,000. We cannot take you until you get into a repayment agreement. You can go, oh, okay, I get it. And you can go and get that repayment agreement and come back and see us. But there's just they're more thorough.
Great. Glad to hear that.
So,
Anything more that needs to?
well, I just want to know if you're comfortable with this letter. It is for Janet's signature, yes.
Right.
And I did not send it to the town manager, but I will, of course. But I just wanted to make sure that you all were comfortable with this. If you have, wordsmithing you want to do, please do so. And let me know. I'm happy to make any changes you'd like, Madam Chair.
I'm quite comfortable with it, particularly with this initial work, the second paragraph that describes the circumstances under which the financial shortfalls
I'll scrutinize it
caused.
tonight, let you know.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, okay, well, good. We'll have it and probably more applications for ELOCs authorities.
Okay. Yes, 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 yes.
All right, well, good, thank you.
And,
And then we have Richard here to go through the audit.
that's where I was coming.
Is that where you were going?
Review
Okay.
2016
Oh,
audit
sorry.
and management letter,
All
that's
right,
fine.
well, there it is. Richard, do you want to pull your chair around
Sure.
maybe? And that way you can hear everybody, they can hear you.
Have you been able to hear most of what we've been saying?
No. He's good.
Okay.
So have you all read it or attempted to read it, or
I have attempted to read it.
it's,
I'm grateful.
I don't think it's perfectly simple.
I
I'm
didn't
sure you
bring my
want-
copy with
where-
me.
Well,
Where would you like to start?
why don't you, I think, give us the, maybe the 5,000 foot, sort of, where do we end up relative to other
Okay,
years?
so, 2000, as Chris was saying, we, a couple of years ago, 2 and 3 years ago, we had some really difficult years, some, threatening years, actually, I would say. And last year was kind of a beginning of assessment of our systems and reducing costs and trying to identify where we can realize revenues. And we, in public housing, we went from around a $300,000 cash loss to, I think it was around 60,000 cash loss last year. And that's not good enough.
No,
But it's better.
it's
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's definitely on the track. And the agency was really saved by the Red Clover development fee.
Hmm.
So we had Section 8 and the Housing Choice voucher programs function close to break even. It's a little bit over, a little bit less, but that's just all timing. They're basically structured to be, basically reimbursement programs, but sometimes the timing is delayed a little bit. SASH and let's see, FSS program, Ross Service Coordinator program, those two are also reimbursement programs, so they're basically break even. SASH, we lose money a little bit, not an enormous amount, but we lose some money, and a lot of that is due to the structure of how our employee benefits are structured. We can talk about that a little later. So public housing lost, 60, I don't know the exact number, but something, on a cash basis, on an accrual basis, it was much, much worse. It's like, 400,000 loss on an accrual basis. But the computation of the change in net position, which is basically net income, is on a cash basis. So that wasn't horrible. And so we lost some money in public housing, broke even on housing choice voucher related programs, lost a little bit of money on service programs. Then our independent programs, which are development services and management of the AWR property. The management of the AWR property lost a couple $1,000s, not horrendous, not where we'd like it to be. I'm not sure if we can improve that or not. You know, we can definitely control it to an extent. And then the development fee saved us. We got a $250,000 development fee last fiscal year. And so the net for the year was an increase in our unencumbered net assets of around 112,000. So, but of that, 250 was the development fee. So on an operating basis, we really lost, 120,000 plus, something like that. And the numbers on the financial statements, they also confuse me. So the 112,000 is the increase in unrestricted assets. There's ins and outs for, we have some programs that were restricted, meaning that they were designated by the funding source for particular activities. And we spent the money on those activities, so that decreased our net assets because we spent the money. And then we increased the value of assets because we took in more, we used our capital fund a little more aggressively this past year, and also the current year than we had in previous years. We left some capital fund money sitting in Washington that we could have drawn, so now we're drawing it. It's never lost. Again, that's the timing.
Richard, if we got near to 100% rent collections, would that bring the public housing to not just break even, but to a positive number?
I don't think that alone would get us to break even. It would definitely be a material contribution towards it. We had a discussion this afternoon about kind of the path and the prospects for addressing our targets. So the target for this coming year is 98% occupancy. I think that's doable. And then 98% rent collection is going to take a little more work. But we were talking about trying to ramp up to, systems that ensure it. So it'll be 99%, 97%, averaging out at 98%. So maybe it'll take 6 months to get those systems really, and as Chris was saying, liberating the people's time so that they can, suggest to tenants, I don't know, that rent is a reasonable first choice of bills to pay.
I think if you reread the annual meeting report, put a lot of emphasis on that because it affects everyone.
Yeah.
The
So-
turnaround time also between having one person leave the apartment
Right.
and somebody else move in.
Well, that's a very tangible work effort that, so there are 2 phases to that, a couple, smaller milestones. When somebody moves out, first thing that happens is, or should happen, is an assessment of the property, a plan for, getting it back up to a rentable condition. And that takes a certain period of time, and it varies, according to the condition that the apartment was left in. But, that we're creating priority schemes. There's a couple tasks that are emergency tasks that are gonna, supersede, turnover.
Yeah.
Snow removal, or,
Right.
a roof collapses or something like that. You can't,
can't-
emergencies, you can't, you just gotta deal with it, But it's, aside from those emergencies, the turnover is a very high priority.
But we brought snow removal back in-house.
Mhm.
How has that worked?
I think it's worked fine. I mean, I don't, you ask the maintenance guys, I'll tell you something else.
Hasn't been a bad winter.
We're having a nice
But-
winter,
Oh.
so.
Yeah.
But I think it was the right decision to make, absolutely. And I think, it's a little ironic. I mean, we have contractors and they're great, but no one knows how to take care of our properties in the wintertime as well as our maintenance people do. There's just, in my mind, they really know how to do it. And when you try to reduce it to a contract that says, if there's, this much ice, come and salt the whole place, then that's what you're gonna get. That's the contract. But when you have your own people who really know the goings and the comings, and, they might look at that much ice and go, okay, we need to do this part, that part, but not that part and that part. It's just different. And I think, it's certainly harder on the guys. They just do a really good job. That's great. They just do.
So, I just wanted to bring your attention to, if you look at our balance sheet,
Oh, which page is it?
yeah, that's what I'm trying to find it. It's buried here. I don't know. Well, the simplified version is on page 12. Statement of net position. So we have $2.8 million of potential equity in properties that we own. And because of what's the term?
Declaration of trust.
Because of the declaration of trust, we can't borrow against those properties. If we, had an energy saving protocol that we can, very confidently say is going to pay for itself in 5 or 6 years, we don't have the ability to borrow $500,000 to. The only way we can get funding is from the HUD normal subsidy for the properties, but that very predictably just covers, it gets close to break even for operating on the property because it's subsidized housing, it's low-income housing. So that's one of the significances of attempting to qualify for RAD, that all of a sudden that equity becomes ours. And we get to choose what's still with the same mission, but we get to choose what's the best path, the best way to use those funds.
I think for people who are going to see this on public television, it would be useful to translate RAD into what the acronym means.
So RAD is the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program. And it enables a housing authority to convert its property from public housing to a form of Section 8 project base. Not the same as Red Clover because it's got its own little quirks. And unless you have to go to the low end, the get tax credits for the property, you don't have that tax credit layer of income analysis that you have, that we
Which
do
we
on
get.
Red Clover.
Yeah.
So you can public, I'll give you a good example, the Springfield Housing Authority has now converted all of their public housing to the rental assistance demonstration program. They are no longer in the public housing program at all. And they are doing amazing things with their property. Burlington has taken all of its properties, and it has a lot, all out of no public housing, all rental assistance, all this project-based, and they're doing,
And it's working.
it's great. Oh,
On
they're
the-
thrilled. They're thrilled, and they're.
On the
what-
surface, it looks like it wouldn't work at all.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
what it's done is it lets them use the equity in their properties.
Yeah.
You know, they can go to
Well,
the
that makes
bank,
sense.
they can go down the street.
That makes sense.
You know, we could go to People's United,
Yeah.
which helped us tremendously with Red Clover, and say, hey, could you help us out with
Yeah.
Ledgewood? or-
Right, we have property
High
values,
rise,
you
you
know,
know.
assessed at, you know, so maybe not 2.8, maybe it's 2 million. And we have, you know, a contractor's estimate, engineering opinions to accomplish this.
Mhm.
There is a downside to RAD. The downside is that we become the sole owner. So if the property is really non-performing, it's going to drag the organization down too.
And when
there's
you
no
say we-
backup and there's no provision to.
We is the Brattleboro Housing Partnership, not Brattleboro Housing Partnership and the town.
Right, no. In fact, this is another thing that we'll have to address pretty soon, is that Brattleboro Housing Partnerships is the trade name of the Brattleboro Housing Opportunities, Inc., which is the nonprofit limited liability corporation that we would probably use when we, if and when we go to RAD. That would be the entity into which we would transfer the properties. So
what-
we need
I'm sorry.
to re-energize that entity. We need to look at the board again, we need to look at its mission. It's very old, that mission doesn't fit RAD at all, and really get that ready to be the entity that then works with you all in this RAD conversion.
One of the provisions of RAD is that we would have to separate our Section 8 entity from the RAD entity, okay,
Mhm.
because they would understand that as a conflict of interest. So, but, you know, the difference between the two entities, it's hard to say that it's really substantive, you know, I mean,
We're living in an uncertain time as far as HUD is
Yeah.
concerned anyway. So you make plans for what may or may not exist. But this sounds closer to what I think this incoming administration would want to see.
one of the criteria of going to RAD is also being a superior performer.
High performer.
High performer.
How much time do we have to become high performers?
How much time?
About 6 months.
Did we borrow the rent money from somebody?
Yeah, right.
So,
Well,
you know,
there's a lot of work that we can do to get ready for both the moving to work and RAD.
Mhm. There
in
seem to be parallel
anticipation.
paths there.
It's not unusual for a housing authority to be, in fact, many of the moving to work agencies immediately went into RAD
Mhm.
because they could, and immediately went into it. So they're the two paths that are the future for public housing. They are where we need to be going, without a doubt. To really, I think Richard liked to say, you know, to really command our future, that's what we need to be.
I don't remember.
Yes, you
saying
do, you do say that, you do, you say that to me all,
You're
didn't you
talking
say that to you,
your
Lori? Command your future, you know, come on, Chris,
Did I
grab
ever
hold.
say that in Oak Meadow?
No, you never said that. All I got was what is hip.
So when Lori and I used to work together.
Now, wait a minute, you're on television.
Okay. I'm not gonna sing.
Yeah, there you go.
But to
Whatever.
learn how to
Anyway.
control our future is something that I would
Yes.
say happily. And that's the basis of my questions. What do we need to do to become high performers in 6 months?
Well,
And how
we-
can we help?
Yeah, so we need to get the properties basically to break even. There's a certain amount of accounting engineering that we can do. If we're close to break even, I can tell you some of the things that we're looking at different programs, funding personnel that are currently in public housing. Partially funding, so it relieves a little bit of the expenses from the
Okay.
public housing.
So in other words, finding other resources for the service programs so that the
Yeah.
funding for them
Right.
wouldn't come out of public housing.
Right.
Okay.
I think, without getting into details, this whole notion of really aligning public housing and maintenance and really getting that to become one operation is really necessary. That is really important. What are the two, anytime you read about what does a property manager do, what are the two things they do? They do maintenance and they do finances. Do our property managers do those? No. So we just need to get back, again, to the basics, so that our property managers and our maintenance are really in tune on these properties. And property managers can do their job, and maintenance can do their job, but they can do their jobs not like over here and over here, but more like here. And that will really bring the benefits that we need to our properties. So I think we're really, I'm meeting today with the sort of leadership group in the office, and I really feel like we're all on the same page.
So just to follow up on the financials, so we had a mixed last year. I mean, we got saved by the development fee, and we want to move to not needing to be saved by a development fee. We're moving towards that. We definitely have cut some expenses. A lot of the office staff there's 2 less positions now than there were, I don't know, 6 months ago, something like that. Or it's probably going to translate into 1.5 less positions. on an
And we
ongoing
did that
basis.
by not filling some positions that became vacant.
Right, so I had an assistant, and
Yes.
she
Moved.
left. And it wasn't that tough to do her work, so I did
Good.
enjoy her work. This year, I think we're going to do better than last year on the ongoing. We had targeted a $60,000 loss for the budget. I don't know if you all remember, but that's what we targeted. And I think between the expense savings, so far, a pretty mild winter, and we did get a surprise development fee. I don't know if you all heard about that. No? Should I say it? Or? So, development fee for Red Clover was chopped up into 2 pieces. One was $250,000, 3 pieces.
3 pieces.
So $250,000 that we got in advance, or, at the beginning of the project, 125 at completion of the project,
100% occupancy.
100% occupancy, and then 125,000 expected later. So we anticipated that we wouldn't get 250 until, April or May. Well, we got 125,000 a couple of weeks ago, just, by a surprise. And it was
Rather nice.
Had we read the documents closer, we would have seen that we
Yeah.
had done that, which was very nice.
So it's absolutely needed. And especially with us being locked out of e-locks,
Yes?
Don't go there.
so,
We'll,
We're working on it.
yeah.
no, we're close, I know we're close. Hopefully, we're close.
We're
But,
close.
so you know, we haven't been able to draw funds from the federal government for a month and a half that we're entitled to, you know, that are,
We're rearranging.
We're
things.
getting there, we're getting there. Another thing that Richard will be looking into is that we get a, what's it called, a replacement housing factor fee or something like that for Melrose. So that's something that will kick in, but it kicks in on a funny schedule. So that's something that, again, we, just as with the development fee, we knew, we didn't think we'd get any development fee or replacement unit adjustment this year. So we did get some of the development fee, and we might in fact get some of the unit adjustment this year. I'm not sure. We have to really look and see what it says. But one of the things that we're going to be doing quite soon is relocating the rest of the people staying at Melrose out of all those units, and then we're just closing them up. And when we do that, we also will cancel the flood insurance on them, and that will say, we should get a rebate of, I think,
the
about
$25,000.
$25,000.
Yeah.
Right there,
It's
just
very
by
expensive insurance.
closing those buildings and saying, we're
They
not
can go.
occupying, they can go down the river.
As I remember, we have been awarded some grants for the removal of some of the buildings.
We have a community development block grant disaster relief for $236,000 to remove the 4 worst offending buildings that are at the top of Melrose, to take them down. And we need to do that by June 30th of this year.
Supposed to be about 20 families left there,
Yeah, about 20.
and where will they be going? By attrition somewhere, or do we?
No, that's a good question. Some of them may leave. We have a year for individuals to activate the tenant protection vouchers.
Okay,
So those are still available.
and they can go wherever they want to
can
go.
Yep. We have somebody who just left with one. Kathy Byer from Housing Vermont and I are, I think, getting pretty close to a site for the second phase of Melrose. And we will, once we've really locked that in, then we will construct about a 20-unit replacement.
So it will require construction.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Will the offices be in that building, or? what are we doing
No,
about
they won't.
that? So
but
there's
I've
something else going on?
Yeah, I've got a plan. I'll tell you. I think I've got a plan.
I understand that the municipal
Yeah.
building might be for sale.
Well, we've looked at it. So we've got some options.
Well, that's
for-
good.
for where
Good
we-
to have options.
But we are really getting very close to a second site. Which is great. Yeah, yeah. So when we do that, we will put our own project-based Section 8s in there.
Mhm.
And the people at Melrose that will be their relocation option.
Mhm.
That'll be their principal relocation
Complicated.
option.
Complicated.
Indeed.
So, you know, there still are things that can kick us in the head, like a very, you know, bad February and March. Snow. I know, why invoke this
Leave on such
negativity?
we were doing so well, Richard. Go
I'm an
ahead.
accountant, I have to present risks. and
Yes.
Condition and risks.
Right.
you know. So, any questions, any thoughts, or?
Well, you certainly are listing a number of things that may bring us up to not only break even, but slightly better. If we are able to do that, by July 1st? June?
Yeah, July,
of
this
Is it by
summer.
July 1st?
Yeah,
Well,
we'd
does
like
it-
to have it done this
The
summer.
summers are good months.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we'd like to get it going, but we'd like to be able to do it this summer.
The chain, the subsidy that we would be getting from HUD for the, what was the term, Chris?
I believe it's a replacement housing factor funding.
Yeah, because we're losing population at Melrose, at some point they're gonna reduce our regular subsidy
Mhm.
for that. But they have a schedule of maintaining the prior subsidy for a year.
Ah.
Then it ramps down, and I think it takes 4 years
It's
until
like
it's
five,
zero.
yeah,
4 or 5 years. It's
80s.
either 20 or 25% reduction.
it's 80, 60, 40, 20,
Yeah, that's what-
zero,
yeah,
I think
that's
that's
what I
what it
thought,
is. I mean, it's
yeah.
overtime, but.
But we still have costs, so, right now we have vacant buildings, we still need to heat the
Yeah.
buildings
Yeah.
so the pipes don't freeze, because there are people living in them.
Well,
So
that's
in
why I
other words-
said we need to get everybody into the buildings
Right,
that we're gonna keep
concentrated,
and
yeah.
shut the other ones down.
So what I'm hearing now, I had erroneously assumed that we would be clustering the current Melrose residents.
We are,
We are,
Have they already moved into clustered?
not yet.
Not yet.
That's what we're gonna
Okay.
be starting,
Okay.
yes.
Into the safest
Yes.
buildings?
Yep, yes.
people say that, the place is a little eerie,
Mhm.
at night.
Yeah. So just to end, if there are no other questions, I do want to compliment Richard because it's just been great to have him really focused on finances. And because we have him he's really good at this and very focused on it, and we will have the end of December quarter and year-to-date for you to go over. And we can bring in very good financials for the property managers on occupancy, on rent collection, and bring those in to the maintenance property management team and say, here's the numbers. Here's
Yeah.
what's going on. And we weren't really able to develop that both level of detail, but then to fold it up, so into something that made sense to people. Because you can get so, and you know this, you can get so deep into the details that it means nothing. But if you can bring it up enough so they go, oh, okay, I see what that means, then they have something tangible to really focus on, okay, 10 days of vacancy means that. Yeah. And so Richard's doing a great job at getting us there. Thank you.
I'm curious as to whether there are any residents whose rent is paid automatically by their banking.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear clearly.
Whether.
We have ACH payments.
Yes, it varies property by property. The elderly properties tend to have more automatic payment of rent, and they also tend to pay, even manually, a little more reliably. It's maybe 2/3 of people between SEA, Hayes, and Melrose, and maybe 1/4 of more electrical. Those bounce too, it's not like, it's not like it's a sure thing. We bounce 3 or 4, checks or ACH a month.
Great job.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Thank you
Richard.
very much indeed. And we have come to the end of the agenda. Is there more that needs to be discussed? Any questions from the board? I invite a motion to adjourn. And Laurie has seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. I still like my aye. All those in favor, please say goodbye.
Yeah.